first 10 podcast session that we are going to have. So my name is Billy Chan. I'll be your host for today. And today we are so grateful that we have Kian Leong, the author of the book 10 Things They Don't Teach in Engineering School. Alright, Kian Leong is not just an engineer. He's a visionary leader who combines technical excellence and coaching mastery from a humble beginning in a small town surrounded by plantation. He pursued his passion for technology. He became the technical leader in the semiconductor industry, a chief master coach. He believed that engineering is not only a profession, but a way to touch people's life all around the world. From a cancer survivor to a principal engineer, he is on a mission to embark the next generation of engineers to thrive, innovate, and shape the future. As the principal engineer at Intel Corporation, he leads a multidisciplinary design team that create cutting-edge mixed-signal IP solutions. His team is known for its innovations, scalability, and competitiveness, as evidenced by the 25 patent filings. He has also gained global exposure and experience through his international stint in the United States. But he is not just a technical leader. He is also a chief master coach who is passionate about unlocking the potential of others. He has helped leaders transform organizations through coaching culture and inspired many people with his thought leadership on purposeful living and wholesome success. He is an iconic public speaking winner with his Success is a Choice speech. He is the creator, speaker, and trainer of the Hexagon coaching model that helps people live with purpose and achieve wholesome success. Kian Leong, welcome, and thank you for being us this morning.
Thank you, Billy. It's my pleasure.
Okay.
I'm really humbled by your introduction, actually, Billy.
All right. First and foremost, Kian Leong, I wanted to congratulate you, we say, to be the first best-selling author on Amazon in the topic of career in the United States, Canada, and Australia.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know what I'm so amazed is that your books stand beside some of the authors that I really look up to. We have Matt Abraham, Think Faster, and Think Smarter and Talk. Think Faster and Talk Smarter. So love that. And above all, you also in front of Tim Ferriss, The 4 Hour Week. I think that's a legend book. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you know, I think I think your book was there 2 to 3 years back when we are still in the lockdown. Remember?
Yeah, the so-called the draft for the manuscript of the book.
They sent it over to me, and then I read about it. And it wasn't 10 things you don't teach in the engineering school. Okay. Okay. And I want to bring back to you, like, what makes you think about the book, how it resonates within wholesome success?
Okay, yeah. I'll probably maybe talk a bit more about the wholesome success first. You know, I'm sure you probably have a question. What do you mean by Kian? What do you mean by wholesome success, right? So now to begin with, what I thought I knew what success meant when I first graduated from university, right? You know, fresh out of university, charging ahead, you know, with full of energy, right? But boy, looking back, I was wrong. I was wrong about what success is. And it took me more than 10 years actually to figure out what's wrong with it. And you see, when I first came out of UCT and I just grabbed all the opportunities or the challenges that my manager threw at me, and you know, and rising through the ranks. But then project after project, right? And every time it feels a little bit more like a chore, or like maybe another task to take it off. To the point that during a promotion, like my manager would pat me on the back and say that congrats, and I got the promotion. Guess what? I go back at night, I sleep over it. Then the next morning I woke up, I was sweating, you know, feeling like the wheel just spin much faster overnight. you know. So I'm not sure whether you had that feeling, right? You know, like that, you know, and meaning that the promotion always comes with it the higher pressure, higher stress, and to a point that I spend a lot more time in it, and I finally realized that, hey, you know what, I'm missing out on other parts of my life, and that's the point where I start to look at, you know, what does success really mean to me, and through my, you know, I start to reflect upon it, you know, read widely about it. I came to a realization that that's when I coined the term wholesome success. It is about success built on top of 8 pillars. And you may know one of the pillar is career, right? But career by itself is never adequate. So we need all these other pillars to reach what I call wholesome success. And what are these pillars? Briefly, there are 4 internal pillars. These 4 internal pillars are our heart, mind, our body, and our soul. These are the 4 internal pillars. What do I mean by that? Like heart, right, is about setting a goal, about achieving or doing something that ignite the passion in me.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind is about doing something or achieving something that is intellectually stimulating to help me to grow mentally, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mental capacity. And the body is about what kind of physical fitness level that I wanted to achieve for myself, right? But that's example of the internal pillars. The external pillars, like what you know, one of it is career, but besides the career, there is other things like family, financial, and the community, right? For example, family, what kind of family life do I want to achieve? Financially, what does financial independence mean to me? And for the community, is about what kind of community that I want to live in, I want to support, to build. What kind of community would that look like? Okay. So, and the beauty of this thing is that the answer for me is very unique and has a meaning for me. And that answer for you could be very different. So in other words, that a wholesome success, right, built on top of 8 pillars, right, and internalized to each individual, the answers are very different.
So what you said is that initially when you think about success, and when when they say that people define like getting a promotion as success, on the hindsight you felt something wrong with it, and you reflected on it and came up with the term of wholesome success. Then if you would summarize it like, you know, one word or whatever, what would the wholesome success is to you today?
Okay. In one word, wholesome success. Wow, boy, that's a hard question. I can summarize into maybe 2 words to me, at least, to what it means to me is living purposefully.
Living purposefully. What does that mean?
Aha, okay. What does that mean? It's about, I call it living in accordance to my life purpose, and how my life purpose, when I live accordance to that, you know, ignite my passion, challenges me intellectually, right? And how all these other pillars or elements comes together, fit together in synergy, so to speak, and reaching that wholesome success.
Okay, I would want to bring back you to probably 4 or 5 years ago, where you started to want to write these 10 things you don't teach in engineering school. Tell us tell us the story behind like you of starting writing the book. What's in your mind? Why was this important to you? Right? Yeah, will you share a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I think the main motivation for me to write the book is really like when I realized that what I learned in university is not sufficient for me to be successful in my life, right? And I realized that, well, you know, if I learn this, right, through my years, right, why not I share it out with others, right? So that they don't necessarily have to go through the same learning curve as me, but they can write on top of it. So that's why it started. And it's never a smooth journey in a way that I remember I first penned it down was back in the year 2006, about 7 years when I come up from UCTs and start working in Intel. Because in the 7 years, I've been a product engineer, I've been a design engineer, I've been a manager, right? All these different roles give me a lot of learning opportunity that I realized that, hey, you know, it's probably about time that, right? Why I say that? Because at one point over the 7 years, right, I kind of feel like I'm a high-tech coolie. You know what is high-tech coolie? A coolie means like a slave, but with a buzzword high-tech, right? But we are kind of like enslaved, shackled to the job, so to speak, right? We spend like, almost all our waking hours on the job. And I realized that, hey, is this really what life is all about, right? And I realized that it's not. And when I think through it, I think there are better way of doing that. That's why I started to pen things down, like what are certain chapters, what are the key things take away. And then I had my first child, and then I stopped all this. I kind of like put it on the back burner until like, fast forward to 2018. That's when I start to look back at. I take it up. I saw this, right? Should I continue? The first thing I look at it, I say that maybe it's not relevant anymore. What I thought about in the year 2006, now I've changed so much that, it's probably, not adequate anymore. I look back and I say that, well, the lessons are still true. And I say that, but well, I need to complete the other chapters with what I've learned through life, so that's why I set forth that, and then finally sat down and write a book and complete it and eventually get it to publish.
Yes, there are two phases that you mentioned here. Like when you say, oh, 2006, you say you want to write it, but today I'm not sure that the fire is not burning hot enough. Then after that, say, oh, I must do it. So what was the principle of belief or the change if compared to do it in 2006 and one to what? Yeah, what is that change? And yeah,
What
let's
is
share
that change?
the belief, the principle, I guess.
Yeah, this is one of the secret I can share. It's very simple actually. When I was promoted to a principal engineer and I talked a bit, I give a career talk, and then someone raised a hand and asked me, "Hey, Kel, when are you going to write a book?" The question is when. I say that, okay, I'll write a book, complete it in 2 years' time, 2018. That's mean 2020. And because I said so, I kind of like set a commitment to myself. And because of that, right, that sets forth the whole thing in motion to, bring it up back and complete the book. And you asked me about what are the guiding principle for me to.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. When I write the book, I'm very clear at least on one thing, which is being authentic. Instead of being the opposite is being a hypocrite, right? What I mean by being authentic is that what I wrote is based on my experience, what I learned, what I practice. Very important is about what I practice, because I care a lot about what I do according to what I said, right? And what I find working, and then that's where is the foundation of how I write the book. And I augment it with research, like research by universities and institutes on what really works, and put them all together.
When you talk about authentic, I'm just curious, you talk about authenticity. I think all the author out there also say authenticity. So what would be the secret sauce, like principle, like authenticity? How would that translate it to the people pick it, read it? Is the Kian Leong authenticity is different from other kind of authenticity? What is different between that?
To me, about authenticity is it's saying out sometimes things can put me into a spot of vulnerability. For example, right, you may not know, although I'm a principal engineer, because everyone expect principal engineer to know all the answers, right? And
Revenue also.
and a number of occasions, if you ask me a question, I say, "Well, that's an interesting question," but I have to admit that I don't know the answer, right? It's ability to admit to others to say that, you know what, I'm afraid I don't know the answer yet, right? To that question. It's the ability to be honest about it when I don't really have the answer. And also in the book, I discuss a lot of things that what you call that I did not do it right, and what I learned from it. Being able to talk about failures, to talk about setbacks, and what I learned from it, right? obviously life is never hunky-dory. It's not always, good and pleasant, so to speak. There's a fair share of challenges, stumble along the way, picking yourself up, learning about it, being authentic and share about those.
And I think I talked to you all about the iconic presentation that I shared, right? So I remember that year I'm also in the audience. I listened to it, right? Wow, I was nearly teared down. I said, wow, this is so touching, and then why yeah, so flexible as well. I I I guess this is probably one of the challenges that overcome. I think would you share with those people who do not know yet about the challenge that you face? We need a big context of that.
Yeah.
know?
I, I guess what you meant, the major challenge in my life,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I think the major challenge in my life is actually about 10 years ago at the end of 2014, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And when the doctor delivered me that news, right? Gosh, I couldn't imagine that I was sitting there in the doctor's clinic. It's kind of like I felt like my whole world just collapsed, like just shrink and collapse on top of me. Right, my whole world crashing down. There's so many questions that went through my head because I was thinking about, wow, I never really thought that I'll be in this position, and I was lost. I was trying to figure out what would happen to my family and so forth. I still remember that day when I was driving back to home because I haven't told my wife yet, and I have to relay the news to her. So many thoughts went through my mind, and eventually when I reached home, I relayed the news to her. Actually, we both broke down and cried.
Mm.
And I still remember that day. My daughter, she was 7 years old then. I was looking at her innocent face. She couldn't comprehend why we were crying.
Mm.
And I still remember that day at the doctor's office because the doctor told me that, okay, you are not the person that fits a high risk profile that will get bladder cancer. The reason is because I'm not a smoker and I'm not above 60 years old. At the time, I was like 39 years old, right? I was super young. I was shocked. I kept asking myself, why me? Right? Why do I being dealt the cruel card, so to speak, like in a card game? But I was totally lost. I kept asking myself because as engineers, right, we keep looking for root cause to problems, right? And then one day I woke up and I just realized that, you know what, KL? You can never find the answer. Only God knows, right? I can never find the answer. But if I don't really know the answer, I can choose to believe an answer that makes sense to me. Yeah. Do I choose to believe that, I'm a victim of circumstances? But maybe my boss, my manager put too much work on me, too much stress, too much pressure, and how would that be? I'll find that my life would be like terrible, right? Always like feeling like a victim of circumstances, like somebody have done this to me and whatnot. Is that the life that I want to live? And obviously, no. Then I said, what's the alternative? The alternative is that, which I choose to believe, is that actually God was telling me a message to say that, hey, Kel, go and change your life. That's the message. Because if I was diagnosed with cancer, maybe when I'm old, after 60 years old, I'm sure there's no turnaround at the time, because doctor told me that this cancer, unfortunately, it looks like it's aggressive and chance of recurrence is high. I choose to believe on the bright side and say that, well, maybe God is really telling a message to change my lifestyle, and that's what I did. And I pretty much overhauled my lifestyles. I'm a couch potato before that. I don't exercise, and nowadays I've transitioned to exercise daily. Right? And it's really changed my whole mindset about how I go forth and live my life. So in essence, right, sometimes all these big challenges, setbacks, failures, or whatever you call, right, are really a blessing in disguise, in a way, if we choose to really learn from it and become better. That's why I call the power of choice.
I was imagining that that time is really like trembling, you see darkness, probably like very small, very timid, very fearful, and and now you change over there. As well as if now if you would be going back and if you talk to your 10 years ago self, like what would be one advice that you would give to that person? Right. Some of us might be in that black hole right now, right? So what would be the one advice that you give to you? That's it. That will make a big change.
That will make a big change. Mm. I will always tell myself that maybe snap out of it, snap out of sometimes the self-pity, self-doubt, to remind myself that, hey, no matter whatever the situation, even the darkest hour in our life, there's always a choice. Every single second, there is a choice that whether we are consciously, unconsciously making. And look at that and make sure that choose something wisely that put us into a position of empowerment rather than disempowerment and feeling like a victim. I think that's what I'm going to tell myself. And on other occasions, I would say,
obviously it would be tough, right?
Yeah.
It would be tough for you to
yeah,
grasp it, but how would you make it a bit easier?
make
for
it a bit
yourself?
easier. Yeah. I would say that what I realize will make it a lot more easier is if we surround ourselves with a community, with friends who are supportive, who has the same mindset about empowerment and being positive. I think that will help. Just imagine, right? I'm feeling down, but I have a group of friends like Billy, like you, and then you say, "Hey, Kel, like maybe you should think about this way or that." I have so many friends telling me this. Obviously, it will change my mindset. As they say, birds of a feather flocks together, and then we are the average of our 5 friends. You've heard about that, right? We are the average of 5 friends. So, choosing our friends wisely in a way that helps to empower us, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why building a community of people, who thinks alike like that, really helps.
Before we connect, I think this is a great one, right? Not everyone will go into that darkness, and I wish not to. So not everyone will go to that darkness, and probably they will not find that kind of urgency of choosing it rightly as what you do. What? How would normal people choose properly? That have an urgency of choosing. What's your thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a good question. In a way that I think what you meant is that how can we train ourselves, to be able to choose wisely so that
Even normal people, right?
Yeah, even normal people to choose wisely and touch wood, in case when major setbacks will come in our life, how are we prepared to do that, right? Yeah, I would call it as building a habit. Everything that we do, the way that we act, the way that we think, oftentimes is a habit. And believe we have learned in science, right? The Pavlov experiment, right? On dogs, right? So it's actually a conditioned response sometimes. So we need to change that conditioning so that our way of thinking and how we react to a situation will change. And it doesn't need to have a big conflict, big issues in our life in order to practice that. In fact, in our daily life, we can practice it. So to practice something, especially when we are changing our habit, the way that we think, the very first thing that needs to happen is awareness. It's about bringing awareness. That's why I really believe in meditation. It's actually to inculcate the awareness of our thoughts. It's the ability to kind of pull ourselves up and look back at how we think. And being aware of that, almost every single second, especially when we make decisions, to say that, hey, wait a minute, I'm making a decision, but I'm making a decision based on my old pattern of thinking, right? Now, if I stop it for a while, I think through again, is these decisions empowering me, or is these decisions putting me into a situation of disempowerment? And it could be a simple things like could be our relationship with a colleague, with a friend, maybe a relationship with a difficult colleague, like that we cannot work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
About sometimes it's about asking like, why this person is so hard to work with. So I'm sure many of us are that. Why is this person so hard to work with? Why he doesn't listen to my ideas, and so forth. Questions to ask when you ask that kind of question. Why does not listen to my idea? Why is it so difficult? Be careful of that because it's pushing us into a victim state, right? We say that we are being a victim. I can't do anything because this person being the aggressor is doing all these things, right? This is called putting ourselves into a victim mindset, right? But the real question to ask so that we can change that is to ask questions like, hey, maybe what's the message that this person is trying to tell me? He doesn't like my idea. What's the message behind it? Must be something about that. You see, that put us into what you call a empowered state to say that now, maybe let me have a chat with him again to really ask the questions that what is it about my idea that he thinks doesn't work? You know, so it's about always checking back and ask ourselves, are we really thinking in a way, making a decision that disempower us or empower us?
Yeah.
Example like what I shared, it's a simple day-to-day thing, right? But every single exercise like this makes us into a habit when we deal with really big crisis in our life. It's so much more easier.
Could you share a bit more like the interest me is that we will talk about meditation and change has some impact to you. Tell me a bit more what do you mean by the meditation and what is in your mind on that time so that we can get some tips
Oh,
on it.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure whether I want to go into specific of my experience with meditation. Um, but I can say one thing is that what meditation cultivate is that to it's not so much meditation, it's not so much to achieve an end goal in mind to achieve something. Meditation to me is actually a process that I go to understand myself better, especially to let go of myself, thoughts that go through my mind, not holding on to it, to understand that how the thoughts arises and how the thoughts go. With that, right, I gain a better understanding of myself, and also I build a awareness. I call it mindfulness. Some people call it mindfulness. That how my thoughts comes about, right?
Okay.
So I can read kind of like pull myself out of my own body and my thoughts and looking at it from a third person perspective. That's what I gain from it.
Thank you for sharing. So I will throw off a tangent a bit, right? And when people think about Kian Leong, I think what people think about principal engineer. Okay. And I'm just curious, like I want to relate like normal people. Normal people think this is very far-reach. Engineers, right? Very far-reach. So I want to ask you, like, when you are just a normal people, what do you think about a principal engineer? Probably what do you think about a principal engineer at that time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I was younger, I look at principal and I look at, wow, it's someone really that I respect, for their technical, uh, what I call for their technical knowledge, skills, and their leadership.
Yeah.
Right. And I doubt that whether I could become a principal
So
engineer.
you don't think you are one of them?
I don't think I'll be one. Honestly speaking, that's why I call it the self-doubt. The reason is that after I was diagnosed with cancer, and then I went through the operations, surgery, and chemotherapy. About a year, I was taking time to reflect upon my life, what I want to do. At the time, I was a manager, and I decided that I want to declutter a bit so that I can focus on what I really want to do best. And I realized that I'm really or passionate about coaching, right? So I decided to say, okay, I'll be an individual contributor, a technical individual contributor. It's a switch. It's kind of like a major switch for me. And at the time, one of the VP told me that, okay, I see you're very good technically. I will consider to become a principal engineer. And that's also one of the tipping point for me. And then that's why I changed to become a technical individual contributor. At that point in change, right, there's so much doubt in me and say, can I do this? It's like a major change from a manager and to a technical individual contributor to be good, technically. And then what more to become a principal engineer? Because there's so many more people in front of me that are technical individual contributor for so many years, right? I'm sure they're a lot more technical than me. So all these are the self-doubt that comes about. And my department at that time, right, department here in Penang at the time, we don't have a principal engineer. And then the thought will come again, what makes me think that I can become a principal engineer if there's even none, in my department, right? So these are all the thoughts. I'm sure many of us here has similar thoughts, like either we don't have the opportunity. I think what we do, we don't have the opportunity to become a principal engineer. Right?
Yeah. So there's two things come about. I hear when you started to resume writing a book, that someone said, "Hey, do lah," right?
Mhm.
And the second instance said also the same. I cannot remember. There's someone said, "Oh, okay, you are good. You're better than what you think you are. Why not you do?" Right? So the reason I want to bring this is that if you look at yourself at two different places, become a manager and become an engineer, right? So what would be the role if you would play to become a very efficient, effective manager, and those that become engineer become very effective, efficient engineer as well. So what would be your experience in that area?
Sure. Yeah. I'll talk maybe about being an engineer first,
Yeah.
right? Being an engineer, most part of a jobs always relates to um, problem solving, technical problem solving. Most of our job, whether we deal with customer, we're solving customer problem. Whether we deal with design, like I work on the design side. Some of us may have a idea that design means, oh, we create things, we innovate, and we do things. Oftentimes, even what we create, what we innovate is actually because we want to solve problems, right? So because we're solving technology limitation or barrier that we want to break through it. That's why we are doing design. It's always about solving problems, right? So, so for being engineers, at least what helped me that I realized is that having a high sense of curiosity. Why? Because we work at the forefront of technology. Things are changing rapidly, and having a sense of curiosity, what puts me is to really, really understand, figure out that what is really the problem statement. Underline what is really the problem, separating that from the symptoms, right? That is important, like when a doctor diagnoses, a patient. And also having the high sense of security, we need that because we need to figure out, play with and figure out what doesn't work, right? To learn from it and to gain that knowledge. Without a curiosity, it's very hard to acquire knowledge. But we have a sense of really, how does it actually work? Why does it break? That's why we gain a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge is important to help us stay at the forefront of technology.
How would the curiosity, how would the hardworkingness that we put in, you translate into become where you are right now? How would that? I was thinking that your story is that someone pushed you, right? How would they be seen to be pushed? I'm not sure the right word, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I probably won't use the term push. I think I would use the term like seeding the idea, right? I think it's important because at the level of being a principal engineer, we call principal engineers are technical leaders. Leaders often has to figure out on their own, getting ideas, to estimate those, to synthesize those, and figure out how to move forward, how to lead, right? And in this case, about being curious is that when we can synthesize different information, different data together, and bring forth what is the insights from the data, what is it telling us, either to solve the problems or to maybe inform us about future future trends, so that we can translate that back to a strategic discussion with the manager on how we can influence and move in that direction. I mean, from a technology or a technical standpoint. I think that is important because the manager, compared to us as a principal manager, obviously we are a lot more technically capable, and if we let the managers to do all the decisions about strategy, it's really not making full use of our what you call the value that we can bring as technical leaders.
Then on the high side, what would be the, based on experience, what would be the role that the effective manager need to play?
Okay. That's actually an interesting question because of the fact that when I first become a manager, the first time I become a manager, I suck big time. Why? Because and I learned so much from it. that I was promoted to become a manager on my 3rd year in Intel. Like I was still very young, and the manager promoted me and said that, you know what, we're hiring new hires, or put them under you. A lot of times when we put a person into to become a manager because the person has demonstrated that he's competent in solving problems, you know, he can do his job well, and yeah, become a manager. So you can train up, you know, the new hires, right?
The skills to be manager skills.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different story about that. You know, that's why I call it, you know, what brings you here would not get you there. What gets you here would not get you there. I think that's a saying by Marshall Goldsmith, right? What gets me here to become a very good engineer doesn't necessarily means that it will get me there to become a good manager, right? You know what I did? You know, I first became a manager. I said that, okay, now I know how to do this job, right? So I listed down step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, and a new employee come in and say that you just follow exactly these steps, you do excellent job, right? Does it work that way? No, we do not work that way, because every individual has their own way of thinking, their own experience they come forward with. Well, sure, the engineer won't follow exactly what I outlined. You know, he'll do it his own way. You know, and I find a lot of frustration with it. I say, why don't you just follow these steps? You know, that I talk about here. You know, and I'm sure a lot of frustration on his part too. You know, I can sense it as well. So the interesting thing that then, you know, because I was a product engineer then, um, I decided to become a design engineer, and I shift to another department. You know, so I kind of let go of the people managing part of it, and it gave me time to rethink. The experience has not been good becoming a manager. Why so? You know, and I learned so much from it after I reflect upon it, that when in being a design engineer, eventually my manager promoted me again and become a manager, right? I was using a very, very different approach, right? I'm not dictating step by step how an engineer should do his job. And I realized that I shouldn't, because more important is about setting the right expectation, clear expectations that this is the outcome. Like right now we call the OKR, right? Now this is called the OKR. This is the outcome that we want to achieve. Now, I give you a free hand to think about, you know, how you want to go about to achieve that. Okay, and they can think of different ways to go about it, and they come to talk to me and say, "What about this? The plan like that?" I said, "Great, try it out." You know, or I say that, "No, I've been through that before. Have you thought about this? I may have something that doesn't work. I've tried that, doesn't work." I say, "Have you thought about this?" So that they can think about it, they can learn along the way, right? And sometimes it really surprised me, because they can achieve or exceed my expectation, do much better than I could if I have done using what I've learned before in the past. Right. That's the beauty of it, because if everybody just follow exactly what I do, what's the breakthrough? Right. You know, so I think this is a beauty part of our manager. So the manager at the end of the day is about delivering results through others. It's about really developing the employees to their full potential in order to do the job much better than if I'm going to do it myself.
It brings me back to, you know, like when we teach my kids, right? I say, you do exactly like this, and if they do exactly like this, they will be exactly like us, lah. So is it good or not? So I think we never know the outcome, but I think at least the path is much more scenic, lah. It give me this kind of stuff in there. Okay, and okay, so before we end, may I ask one more question, right? And the question goes like this. So what will be the one question that I have not asked yet that will be beneficial for the audience?
Yeah, I see. One of the questions would be, maybe I was reflecting back to some of the questions asked me about being, you know, before I become a principal engineer, what's my limiting belief? You know, what are the things that are holding me back? I think I did not answer the other part of it, which is
there something else, or is this the most important that?
There's something else, because I think that if I just talk about limiting belief, I'm sure everybody has that, but I think the question maybe people will ask is that, how do you break through that? How do you break through that? And share? I think I'm fortunate to have a coach, and the coach one day inspires me and actually asks a very insightful question. Ask me, hey KL, I know what's your life purpose. Just to share share with you, right? My life purpose is to inspire people to achieve wholesome success, so that in turn, right, they can pay it forward. And this is how we make the world a much better place.
Yeah.
So with that, right, my coach asked me is that, hey, Kel, if you are a principal engineer, wouldn't that lend you credibility to inspire others?
Mhm.
I say, yes, that's true. So my coach asked me to connect becoming a principal engineer to my life purpose.
Mm.
And when I see that connection, right, then the next thing he works with me
Yeah.
is to come up with a plan. So the next question he asked me is that, hey, Kel, I fall into the same trap as writing my book, in a sense. The same trap, because he asked me, how soon can you become a principal engineer?
Pressure.
Yeah, how soon? Aggressively speaking, I said, at the time was 2016. I said that maybe 2 years. I said that, okay, let's take 2 years and let's build a plan together. And we start to build a plan, like what do I need to do, looking at the PE readiness, right? What I do need to focus on, because without a plan, right, we just have an idea, it will just be like that, right? Because our time is so much more, overwhelmed with things around us, right? We just won't consciously look at it, because you put a deadline, because I put a deadline in it, and I think about a plan to go about it. I'm being so much more conscious about it, so that I'm aware of opportunities, how I can take on the opportunities to become a principal engineer. Like case in point, right? Things never go according to our plan. I guarantee you, things will never go according to our plan.
So limiting belief for you.
Yeah. No, it's just Murphy's law, right? But we need to be able to adapt and pivot.
Okay.
Like for example, right? When I put out the plan, I say that, okay, now I'll work on this project. This project is technically challenging enough. It can bring me to become a principal engineer.
Yep.
And guess what? Fire came out. There was a big fire. I was like pulled into it and say, okay, we need to solve this fire. This is important because because I have the background, the competency, so I was pulled into it. So when I put into it, the next thing I figured out, well, oh gosh, there goes it, right? I can't work on the project. And right now I'm going fighting fire. Maybe I have to put my plan on hold. I have to tell my coach that, I can't, right? Or maybe 2 years is not a realistic timeline anymore. But the fact that because I'm still trying to keep to the 2 years, I realized that even though when I'm fighting fire, there's a lot of opportunity over here, because it's helping Intel. It's very important to how to help Intel the bottom line. And I realized that, there are a lot of VPs. The fire was so big that there's a lot of VPs, fellows, senior PEs in it. I'm not even a PE, and I'm speaking in front of them, selling the ideas, how we're going to fix this problem. I realized that those are brilliant opportunity for someone to showcase their credibility. And after that whole firefighting, actually I got a reference from the fellow to support my nomination to become PE. See, things change, but we pivot accordingly. That's why I call I call it as a lot of times things never go according to our plan. Right. But we need to be able to pivot, recognize the opportunity, and pivot accordingly.
Yeah. So the first part when you talk about it, this is one of the things that I think of this morning, right? It's like the value of underlying the thing that we want. So I think a lot of things that people can resonate, like they talk about, I want money. So when you say I want money, what do you feel about it? Okay. As compared to say, oh, I can use the money to treat my friend. I can use the money to fund my family for a good vacation. I can use the money to buy a good car. I can use the money to buy a great house. So that was underlying what the money can do. That was what you said, what the principal engineer can do. So I think the gist of what you said is that uh, rather than focusing on that, you've also focusing on what benefit that we can have and what benefit that other people can have also. And you point out the point that have someone to guide you through, which your style is a coach, so that you could boils down to the key details that you can do and make more calm, focused, and clear on what you're going to do. So I just want to summarize that. I think that's a very important point. Thank you for sharing the last question, asking yourself for us. Okay. All right. So I think let us end with this thing. I will end with this called the rapid fire question. Okay, I prepared 3 questions for you. So as a book club, I think this is something that we want to know, learn. Is there any books resources, teachers that have significantly impacted your life, and why?
Wow, a lot. I'm sure if I want to list them down, I don't think I can finish an hour. But I'll probably just start with one, um, a self-help book. It's the first self-help book I read. I was 14 years old then. I read this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I still remember that quote in the book, it said that whatever the mind can conceive and believe in, it can achieve.
Yeah.
Right. That has been kind of like something that I latch on to, that I see that interesting, and which holds a dear part in my life. In a sense that helps me to reach where I am today.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, hypothetically, you have a gigantic box that can be seen by everyone. Okay, from anywhere, what would you have on it, and why?
A gigantic box so big that I can
Every,
from the moon, right? And everybody
for
can
the
look at it, and everybody look up the sky and see
yeah.
that. Okay. I would think live life purposefully. That would be the gist, the message that I want to send across.
Okay. Okay. Last question. In the last 5 years, what are the new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Mm-hmm. If it's in the last 10 years, that's when I was diagnosed with cancer. So much I learned from it. I would call the power of choice. If you say that in the last 5 years, I would call suppressing really the self-doubt, and be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sounds a bit oxymoron, right? To be comfortable being uncomfortable. What do I mean by that is that pushing myself out of the comfort zone, doing things a bit differently, experiencing new things, and making decisions that I don't have all the data, and very well aware that I can make wrong decisions, and I do make wrong decisions, right? But being comfortable with that, right? And obviously there are a lot more things behind making decisions that without complete data, right? But that's a whole different story anyway. But it's about this, about pushing myself out of the comfort zone, doing things I've never done before. I think that's what brings me to dramatic improvement or change in my life.
Right. Finally, Kian Leong, for those people who wanted to know more about you, learn more from your work, how can they get in touch with you? You just share that.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can connect with me in LinkedIn, right? In LinkedIn, if you search LinkedIn, probably you're going to find my name there. And the other way, if you are in Intel, obviously, the career connection, you can connect with me if you want to, meet me up to talk about certain things. You can always set up a session in career connection.
All right, Kian Leong, that's all the time that we have, and thank you for being with us this morning and share all your experience and tips.
Yeah, okay? My pleasure.
Alright, this is all the time that we have, and if you like video like this, remember to subscribe to us and also like the video. This is going to bump out this and reach out to more people, like-minded people like you. And if Kian Leong's video resonates with you, I encourage you to check out Kian Leong's earlier video about the magic. And finally, be kinder to yourself and the people around you. Happy learning, and I'm going to see you again in the next episode. Alright, see you and bye-bye.